Please do.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Oh, go ahead.
We're streaming live now. Welcome members of the public and members of council to this special council meeting. Well, I'm going to read a public notice before we begin. Due to the efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 and to protect all individuals, city facilities will not be open to the public to attend council and committee meetings until further notice. The public can observe meetings of council and committees by viewing the live stream of the open session part of these meetings, which can be accessed on the city's website, richmondhill.ca, or on the city's YouTube page. So with regards to public comments, the public may submit written correspondence regarding agenda matters by email to clerks@richmondhill.ca, and the public may appear as an electronic delegation by video conference or by telephone. And again, applications to appear as electronic delegation must be submitted by 4:30 p.m. the day before the meeting. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Members of council, thank you, Councillor West, and seconded by Regional and Local Councillor Pirelli. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor? Okay, thank you. That carries, and it is just one item of business. Does anyone have a disclosure of pecuniary interest on this item? Okay, I see none. So we move right to the delegation. So we have the singular item 4.1, and we have two registered delegations to this item. The first is Tina Pernica from 72 Rockport Crescent, regarding the member motion submitted by Councillor Munch that we're discussing today. And the clerks just informed me that Ms. Pernica is not in attendance, not able to attend. So
she was.
So I see our other delegation that's registered, Mr. Andres from Goodman's LLP on behalf of Baif Developments is present and looks like he's ready to go. So go ahead, Mr. Andres. You got 5 minutes to address council.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Acting Mayor DePaula, members of council. I'm here today on behalf of Baif Developments. As you know, we had a lengthy discussion about the issues raised in this motion in the context of the Treasure Hill Montana subdivision application last week. And there is indeed a serious dilemma here that needs to be resolved right away. Given that the Treasure Hill applications are moving forward quickly, and since everyone, including Baif, wants to see the long-term care home on the Treasure Hill lands constructed as soon as possible, it is critical that the land use compatibility issues get resolved now to avoid what could be serious problems later. As I said last week, if the Baif lands remain zoned strictly for employment uses, they will either remain vacant and the much needed infrastructure will not get built, or they will be developed and with employment uses, and there will be land use conflicts. There could be serious traffic problems as trucks navigate to the 404 interchange and back, and there may well be noise and odor complaints. And it was noted the other day that Richmond Hill just announced that it secured Amazon, which is tremendous. But even if a user like Amazon were to be interested in the Baif lands in the future, which I would say is highly unlikely now that there are single family homes proposed to be built along the lot line, you would still have all the new residents on the Treasure Hill lands complaining about the constant noise from the trucks backing into the loading docks, in addition to the traffic and other issues. So it would have been better if the properties were brought forward together last year. Unfortunately, that did not happen, and the consequences of that decision are now coming into sharp focus. But this is indeed the opportunity to get it right now. These lands have always been planned together, and which is entirely consistent with the guiding provincial municipal policies on efficient use of land and infrastructure. And to be clear, Baif wants to develop its lands. It does not want them to sit vacant for another 30 years. It wants to deliver the extension of Vogel Road through its property, and it wants to sit down with Treasure Hill and the city and any other stakeholders to work out a front-ending agreement so the bridge can be built as soon as possible. It also wants a practical and efficient shared servicing solution for its lands in Treasure Hill. So as I said last week, the issuance of the MZO for Treasure Hill was a game changer. I was asked then, and I confirmed that Baif would absolutely support the issuance of another MZO to bring the land use planning back into harmony. And we're very pleased to see that City Council has taken this matter seriously and reacted expeditiously. We thank Councillor Munch for bringing forward the motion on an urgent basis, and we thank Council for scheduling this special meeting. The draft MZO that's before Council today represents the best and perhaps the only solution to the land use planning challenges for Baif. As you all know, Baif has been an important contributor and stakeholder in Richmond Hill for decades. It's about residential communities and employment projects and everything in between, including several developments within Headford on the other side of the valley and the other business parks. And it's been exploring various forms of industrial and commercial development on these lands for decades, but its ability to move forward has always been dependent on what is happening on the lands to the north. It's the tail on the dog, so to speak. So if the Treasure Hill lands move forward without ensuring compatibility with the Baif lands, the planning outcome will be the worst possible outcome. Conversely, the MZO you're being asked to support today will be the catalyst to finally allow this area to move forward. The proposed uses and development standards set out in the draft MZO are entirely consistent with the uses and standards in the Treasure Hill MZO. They would result in complementary and compatible development. And as the acting mayor noted 2 days ago, what Baif is proposing is a continuation of the seniors theme here. It's proposing to reserve at least 1.2 hectares in its northeast corner for seniors housing, along with an associated wellness hub, which would include active recreational uses for seniors, as well as medical offices and other support services. If there's a market opportunity for another long-term care home, Baif would be willing to explore that too, potentially even working with Monchong to see what opportunities are there. And through the seniors housing it's proposing and the associated community hub, there will be lots of good new jobs created, which don't exist today. And the prospects of job creation are in fact better than they would be if Baif were to move forward with low density automated industrial facilities, which typically have very few jobs associated with them. So as I've said, and as you know, Baif has been trying to bring these issues to the city's attention for years, and more importantly, to enlist the city to help get the region to pay attention to these issues. The Baif concept plan that's attached to the motion, while it was tweaked a few days ago, it was shared with staff about 5 months ago, and the overall concept remains the same. So if council decides to move forward with the request today, there will still be an opportunity. Yeah, I'm wrapping up. Thank you. Over the next few weeks to fine tune the development standards to ensure they're consistent with the city's zoning structure. So this isn't the absolute final say today on the language of the MZO. There will be an opportunity to tweak it as necessary. And the commitments Baif is making can be secured through agreements with the city and or the province as necessary. And finally, I would just say this will not set a negative precedent for conversions or similar MZOs because of the unique situation, geography, and development constraints we have here. So Baif respectfully requests that council seize this opportunity to resolve this dilemma and request that the province work with Baif and Treasure Hill and city staff to get the infrastructure built and to issue the MZO. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Andres. So that's laid out very well for us there, along with our scheduled business item. We have, I believe, just one item of correspondence. Mr. Clerk, do we also have something from Monchong that's to be included as part of the agenda?
Mr. Acting Mayor, we certainly did distribute the correspondence that we had received before 4:30 p.m. Yesterday. I don't believe there was one, and I'm just quickly looking through it, specifically from Monchong. But we did forward the ones that my office had received prior to. Yes.
Okay, so
sir, if I may,
two additional items of correspondence. So on our official record, we don't include the letter from Treasure Hill. Is it? The members of council were all copied on that letter. I see our additions agenda has just two items of correspondence from Mr. Andres and from a Brenda Hogg.
Mayor, we did receive. I received some correspondence from others as well, so I'm waiting for the clerk to finish.
Okay, that's why, Councillor Munch, I want to confirm what's going to form part of the official record before we go forward. Regional and local, Councillor Pirelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to.
If I may, point of order here, please.
Councillor Munch, you're going to begin discussion. It's your member motion. You'll be first to speak, I think.
I'm not asking to speak. I'm trying to follow up, please. That I do know that Tina Pernica has sent a delegation through it, and she's texting me asking me what's going on.
Oh, okay. Thanks for interrupting, because that's important. She's registered to speak if she's available. We're going to hear her. Regional and local, Councillor Pirelli, you had just a.
I just want at the appropriate time, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to say that all the correspondence that we individually received, such as the letter from Treasure Hill, be attached to the official record.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to that effect when we move the main motion. Maybe Councillor Munch will add it to his motion. Okay, so have we been able to reach Miss Pernica?
There's someone on the phone. It's not the number registered. We can turn her on if you want.
Okay, it looks like we may have her trying to connect by telephone. And we're going to try.
She's texting me and she's telling me that she's not able to act as a participant, but she's able to listen.
Mr. Acting Mayor. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Hello.
Miss Pernica, is that you?
Yes, it is me, and I was hoping to join the meeting
You
via Zoom, but for some reason the Zoom link did not work.
Well,
What's
that's
happening?
okay. That's okay. We can
That's
hear you.
unfortunate.
We can hear you loud and clear. So you've got up to 5 minutes to address council on this item. Yeah, this is Ms. Tina Pernica from 72 Rockport Crescent. Go ahead.
Sure. Hi. So my name is Tina Pernica, and I've been a Richmond Hill resident for 34 years. I am the founder and former president of the Ewing's Cancer Foundation of Canada, which was a Richmond Hill-based charitable organization that began in 2008 and recently joined forces with Sick Kids Foundation, addressing research and education for a highly aggressive teen cancer called Ewing sarcoma. I am also an active senior. I'm grateful for this opportunity to express my thoughts and concerns and suggestions to the Richmond Hill Council with regards to Councillor Tom Munch's motions to approve an economic development opportunity. So we all know, and I'm sure you agree, there is an incredible housing shortage here in Richmond Hill, and more notably, housing for the senior community. And that includes long-term care facilities, medical and wellness, and care services. I can count on one hand just how many quality long-term care facilities there are in our city, and available housing for the well and the active seniors is really low. And I understand the Region of York Council has approved an employment land conversion to permit residential uses on the treasure lands, allowing the development a new long-term care facility and residential community, while at the same time it decided to refuse an employment land conversion for the Baif lands, which raising serious and valid concerns for the city in respect to the incompatible land uses clearly noted in this motion. The new concept plan of Baif land submitted for reconsideration of a proposed mixed-use community that include new senior housing, possible long-term care facilities, and associated medical wellness hub services are also needed in the region of York, and in particular Richmond Hill, with both developments complementing one another. However, I would recommend that conditions also be met, that a long-term care facility must be included in Baifland's development concept, and not just a possibility or of sweetening the deal, so to speak. York region needs this, and this will take both Treasure Hills land and Baiflands together to create a successful lateral development. There should also be a condition met by both developers. The concept will support an all-inclusive community and not just for the wealthy or for a particular sector. It makes absolute sense to have both proposed developments work together on similar timeframes, and believe that would call for fast-tracking approval for the employment land conversion for Baiflands. By refusing or delaying this, Baifland's development could potentially result in long-term repercussions. And a prime example being my area that I live in, which is, I have a small parkette, Sussex Park, behind me. It's off Center Street. And on the other side of it are chemical producing factories on Newkirk, where industrial happens right in my backyard. Poor planning indeed, maybe 6 decades ago, resulting in severe pollution, health, and noise repercussions that should never have happened and should never happen again. So now it's
1 minute
crucial time
remaining.
to take. Now is a crucial time to take a closer look at the logics of why a proposed mixed-use community for Baif lands is important and how it would eliminate the land use incompatibility dilemma with that of Treasure Hills land. And yes, allowing Baif lands to finally develop with appropriate and complementary uses. It's an absolute fact that York Region and Richmond Hill are desperate for addressing the housing needs, and especially for the seniors. And now, in the very future, will be the same if we don't. These two development proposals are badly needed, and it will take coordination and working together. As a senior resident of Richmond Hill, I see these two developments to be an absolute win-win for all, but can only come to fruition and starting with approving this motion. I urge you, Richmond Hill Council, to work together, take responsibility, and to show strength and leadership. It's time to break the cycle of procrastination and move forward, and by doing so, escalate the much-needed reputation of our city. So consider this, and consider Tom's motion in all its lengthy glory. It's your time, Richmond Hill, to allow your actions to become a legacy. Richmond Hill constituents are seriously counting on you. Yes, we do care. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Pernica.
My pleasure.
That's great input for us as we go forward here to deliberate. So I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Munch now, the mover of the motion. I'm going to ask that you introduce your motion and that you include the 2 items of correspondence received and the correspondence that's been circulated to all of council from Treasure Hill. If you'd be willing, Councillor Munch.
Thank
And
you.
then,
Thank you. It's good to see everybody.
okay,
I thank you for the delegates and thank you for everybody being here on a Friday. I would like to move the motion. I'd like to move the attachments to the motion, the correspondence that received both the council, including the Treasure Hill letter today, and also obviously the delegations. So I think it's important for my position, as I said on Wednesday, and I'm going to go back today, that these are, for me, a block area. And I think that we as a council have moved forwards with part of the block, but we didn't go with the second part of the block. I think these two parties have a plan, and we can start going into the details of that plan. But what's important is that they're creating very important opportunities for the people of Richmond Hill and that area that are really in line. Senior housing does create a lot of jobs. It's not a manufacturing type facility, but right now it doesn't look like there's a lot of head offices going to be built in the short term. And this is a really good opportunity for us. We have roadways, bridges. This has been part of the landscape for years. I hope you all read the motion. It's very detailed, as most of my motions are, okay, because it takes a lot of effort to put information together. It takes a lot of effort to make an argument that's valid. And this is a very serious approach. We've done interim control bylaws, and we've also recommended to the province that they assist us in moving items forward, as was stated by the delegate. We have a real need for this type of housing, and we are not approving nearly fast enough of what we need, certainly for this sector. It's a great opportunity. I applaud Baif for moving as they did last Wednesday. 9 days ago, we discussed these lands as part of the Treasure Hill application. So council's already been discussing these lands, and the applicant moved forward with a concept plan in May, and then they followed up this week. And the Minister of Municipal Affairs has given us a deadline of saying to municipalities, if you want us to help you, you need to move forwards in a time frame. So I think in reasonable, the lot of detail in the motion, I hope you all have read it. That's a lot faster to read than write. And I think each one of us should be aware of these lands, because these lands have been around a long time, well before I was a councillor, with the Honda lands and what have you. And this has raised a lot of pain. And I think there's been it's a good partner. Both Baif and Treasure Hill have shown to be a long-term partner here in Richmond Hill. And this is an opportunity for us to begin a dialogue progressively together to move the process along and work to make sure that these lands are in the best interest of Richmond Hill today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Munch. Okay, is there a seconder for the motion on the floor? We got Regional and Local Councillor Pirelli. If you want to speak, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you originally had seconded the motion, but in order to keep you in the chair where you are, I'm happy to second the motion. I fully support the motion. I want to start off by being very crystal clear what the Treasure Hill lands and now the Baif lands are all about. It's about Mon Shong. Make no confusion about this. This is all about getting that long-term care facility on the Treasure Hill lands, getting this senior housing on the Treasure Hill lands, and then accentuating all that with the accessory lands on the Baif lands to build all kinds of other wellness centers, etc., to complement. And because it would be a travesty of justice if Mon Shong wasn't supported 100% and fast-tracked to make this happen. So let me go back a little bit. Crystal clear, this is all about long-term care. These lands, both Treasure Hill and the Baif lands, were employment lands. And let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen, these lands were owned by professionals in the commercial, industrial, employment land business. That was right in their wheelhouse. These people are no stranger to that kind of development. And they tried for 10 years, just couldn't make it happen. We can't afford for those lands to remain undeveloped any longer. The city has stated that the bridge that we keep talking about is critical infrastructure. It is going to be funded by citywide development charges, but it needs to be built by someone. One of the developers needs to upfront the cost of the bridge and then recover the money later from DC charges. The city's not going to do that, but yet we need it. This has all got to come together at the same time. The only way that happens is by this motion going through. And remember, this is about Mon Shong and the long-term care facility. Mon Shong is a serious organization. They do not mince words. They do not play games. They are here with the greatest of intention, and they need to move ahead. They're willing to invest in our community, hundreds and hundreds of full-time, good-paying jobs with good benefits to last the next 100 years in these long-term care facilities and ancillary businesses to support it. What we need here today, ladies and gentlemen, is we need a unanimous decision of council. And the reason I say that is this. Ultimately, the decision will be made by the minister and the minister's office. And the minister's office, if they're not watching now, they will be watching it later. And they're going to be watching how we react to this as a council. How serious are we? They granted us the zoning order because we wanted Mon Shong. We need to now back that up, double down, and say we have to have this.
1 minute.
1 minute. And I would be remiss if I didn't say, sorry, Tina, what was the last name?
Pernica.
Pernica. Tina Pernica hit it out of the park. Wow. That's incredible what she said. Listen to her words carefully. They were powerful. She gave the best example of all. As the former Ward 2 councillor, before Councillor Munch, I'm very familiar with the area where she lives, and she's absolutely right. We got it wrong 50, 60 years ago when we surrounded and we had this employment area, smelly factories and so on, and dust and noise right next to residential. We got it wrong. And maybe one
time wrap up, please.
second round, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Okay, any other councillors want to speak to this? Councillor West, and then Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you. Okay, so to be clear, I was not in favor of the original MZO, and I did say at the time, and I will again reiterate that the Monshong component of that MZO, I think, what made sense, and I truly do believe, even to this day, that we didn't need to do a whole MZO with all kinds of employment land getting converted to residential, and we still could have accommodated the Monshong application. I'm sure of that. But given the fact that we did use an MZO to convert all of that employment land that was there to essentially residential and the Monshong part of the proposal, we've created a situation where we now have to convert more, or we're being pressured to convert more residential land, employment land to a residential use. Because, I mean, it is true that there are some commercial industrial uses that could cause conflicts now that we've made this other change. And to be honest, I mean, I had the concern about the MZO right from the very beginning, that we were rushing into it. We were not studying it as well. We did not have a fulsome staff report that I recall about that conversion, and we went ahead and did it anyway, and we've created this situation. Now, having said that, I will always look at both sides of the coin. There are some reasons why it does make some logical sense to convert the lands that are left to a similar use. And I've given this a lot of thought, and I've looked into it. I've talked to a number of people. I've spoken to the applicant. I've spoken to some of my colleagues, and I do appreciate all of that input. And I'm not convinced that there is actually clearly a right answer. I don't think I'm going to be able to support this. I think that I am very concerned that we're going to be converting more of our employment lands to a use that's not employment. We do not have more employment lands available other than what's left. Vaughan and Markham do, which puts them at a competitive advantage in some ways because they have a larger inventory. Unfortunately, the reality is we don't. Every time we convert a piece of employment land to something else, there is a potential that we are not going to be able to say yes to the next, employer that comes to Richmond Hill, like Amazon, for example. So anyway, I am surprised actually that we didn't get a letter from Monshong. I think probably they realized that their permissions will go ahead in any case. And so I appreciate that. And I also appreciate the fact that there was a very short time frame to be able to do this. So that might have something to do with it as well. Anyway, I'm happy to hear the rest of the comments. I do appreciate the bit of information that we received in that short period of time from staff. It does outline some of the issues that are there. But as I said, I'd be willing to listen to whatever other comments are going to be made. But at this moment, I think I'm fairly consistent in my thinking from the beginning of this that I'm not going to be able to support this. But thank you for the opportunity, though, to speak, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My thanks to our staff in the Clerk's Department for arranging this special council meeting on short notice. Greatly appreciated. Thank you to everybody who spoke. I did miss some of it as I was coming up in the elevator, but I believe I got most of it. I did not support the first MZO here for Treasure Hill lands, and I will be fully consistent here. I will not support I do not support the fundamental concept of an MZO. It takes the power and the decision making away from the municipality, and it takes public input completely out of the equation. So I agree with the Councillor West. I see both sides of this, but I do not support MZOs, and the majority of my residents and residents of Richmond Hill that I've spoken to are fully against an MZO, and there are many reasons, but most importantly are the ones that I have just expressed. So I do look forward to hearing the rest of Council's comments, but those are mine, and I will not support this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. I don't see, Councillor Barrows.
So it's interesting when you take a look at the Baif land, and you just take a look at it by itself. It is an awkwardly shaped piece of land with very difficult topography and water. The suggestion, and I suspect this is why over the years, the Baif has been unsuccessful in getting a commercial tenant, is because of just that. It's not a simple piece of land to work with to actually end up with a sizable one building for something. And when I take a look at the current environment, obviously I'll support it. I think that getting Mong Shong closer to the finish line in the way of actually building is most important, paramount. Because if we had ended up as a council not making the change on the original lands where Mong Shong is, we might have a huge warehouse with a bunch of robots and 10 employees. Instead, we're going to get some really good healthcare jobs. And we don't know what other ancillary uses are going to come along because of this. This is a big magnet, and things will come because of it. And I trust that in the adjacent land, the Baif land, which we're now talking about, similar things are going to happen. Or we could do nothing. The land could sit there and do nothing. We might get a warehouse someday with a bunch of robots and very few people, and have it incompatible with the adjoining property. And it doesn't set a precedent, because there's not another situation like this in the city where you've got these very difficult land uses and you've got this MZO right beside it. So I think any of my colleagues that are struggling with perhaps that precedent setting situation, fear not. There's an opportunity here. I know that Baif in other land holdings that they've developed across the GTHA, they are always extremely mindful of a variety of uses in the way of housing for all. And we are, as many have said, we have a shortage of housing in Richmond Hill. We have a number of amazing businesses that have chosen to call Richmond Hill home. Amazing. Having Mong Shong come to Richmond Hill again will be huge, 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 huge. So I support this wholeheartedly. I think that we need to move as quickly as possible. And, I'm just going to make one comment, because there's been comments made in the past about perhaps me in particular not agreeing with our professional staff. Well, you know what? When I have a vision for a part of Richmond Hill and city staff doesn't agree with my vision, I don't hold any grudge. I don't think anything different of it. We have different visions. There's no disrespect taken. So we move forward as a council. We have a vision. We want our city to play out in the best possible light. We want to attract the best of the best, and we want people to be able to call this place home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barros. Councillor Chan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me start off by saying that a number of my colleagues talking about back, I guess, the history, so to speak, about the council majority anyway adopted the motion back then to for the Treasure Hill land to seek MZO. Philosophically, I have a problem with going with the MZO for reasons that some of my colleagues already talked about. But last time around, I was greatly influenced by very respectable, well over 40, 50 years, Mangshang, that been mentioned many times now, because they are in the part of that proposed development. And I'm glad to see that. And I that was the determining factor that last time I support to request to the MZO. I'm hearing it mentioned now today, but it's on a different piece of land. I do understand the predicament of the Baif developments in some way. Ironically, that council, in a sense, is also put in a bind, so to speak, because I understand where Baif is coming from. They're landlocked, and they are still with the destination employment land, as someone was said. They tried for years and doesn't seem to go anywhere in terms of attracting the kind of commercial developments they might be seeking. Now, through you, Mr. Chair, can I seek clarification from our staff that help me to get to make a better informed decision for this? In the staff memo, it's talking about potential land use conflicts. However, we also received for the record from next door Treasure Hill, they say they are generally supportive. So the question to staff through you, Mr. Chair, is that with the letter written from Treasure Hill, would staff still have concern about potential land use conflicts between neighbors, meaning Treasure Hill and Baif development land? Through you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Kwan.
Through you, Mr. Acting Mayor, let me try to answer the question this way. The zoning bylaw typically provides for a suite of permitted land uses, as well as the appropriate performance standards to build those uses. So at this point in time, certainly the Treasure Hill lands enjoy zoning permissions through the approved MZO, which they're entitled to now to build that facility. With respect to any future development on the Baif property, however, we would have to evaluate the merits of that application coming forward in order to ensure that the conflicts would be minimized and can be developed in accordance with good planning practices and the approvals of the various agencies that may be involved. But certainly with a complementary zoning or through an MZO or any other means on the Baif property, we would obviously reduce the potential for those conflicts because there is a harmonization of the appropriate land uses on both properties.
Thank you. The other thing that, thank you, Commissioner, from Mr. Chair. And I want to thank the both delegates. And I actually have a question for both of them. But let me start off with our delegate that who is a Ward 2 resident, I understand. And yes, she spoke certainly in the tone that I would say as a senior, I totally agree with her 100%. We need more senior housing, not only in this part, but everywhere in the city as York region. And yes, we do care. I like that, what she said at the end. And I think she also used the term that if the NZO that we are requesting here for council, that it should not be a condition, but must include long-term care senior housing. And on that note, If I may ask the question to the other delegate, Mr. Andre, I believe, I know he's the solicitor representing applicant. I'm not quite sure of Baif. He is in a position to confirm or affirm or commit to the council here, at least to me, notwithstanding the members' motion have a whereas statement, but it's the councilor's motion, not from Baif. We're talking about 1.2 hectare acre reserve for seniors housing and a community wellness hub, and with the possibility of additional long-term care facility. Would, through Mr. Chair to Mr. Andre, to the extent that you can share with us your understanding from your client about the level of commitment of any land reserve for senior housing and community wellness hub. I'd like to hear that for you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'll put that question to Mr. Andres, but I think Ms. Pernica is no longer on the call, so we might not get a question to her, but Mr. Andres is certainly here. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Andres.
Thank you very much. Through you, Acting Mayor DePaula, and thank you very much for the question, Councillor Chan. Baif is certainly prepared to commit to reserving 1.2 hectares of its site for the seniors housing and associated uses, as I said earlier, and as I said in my written submission. And on the concept plan that's attached to the member motion, what is envisioned is the northeast part of the property immediately adjacent to the Treasure Hill lands and the 404 being the obvious location for that. I know Monchong is still deciding where the best location on the Treasure Hill lands for the long-term care facility is, but it's possible it could be right across the property line there. So Baif's prepared to commit to that. It's not really something that can be, I mean, it's secured through the MZO in the sense that it's drafted in a way that only allows for those types of uses within that 1.2 hectares. So it is tied down in the zoning in that respect. Baif is also willing to enter into an agreement with the city and or the province to further flesh out the details of that commitment. And with respect to whether it's a long-term care facility or other forms of senior housing, Baif is open to all of that. I want to be clear about that. But Baif is also mindful of not wanting to step on Monchong's toes or potentially saturate a market if there's not enough space for two long-term care facilities, for example. And Baif is certainly open to working with Monchong directly as well if there's an opportunity for an expanded presence, I guess, for Monchong on its lands beyond just the Treasure Hill land. So I would say all of those options are on the table, and Baif would be willing to explore and hopefully secure any iteration of what I just said. And if it ends up being the case that the type of seniors housing is more of the retirement home or partially assisted living nature than a fully subsidized long-term care home, it may be that that's the more complementary use to what Monchong's already proposing to build on the Treasure Hill land. So I hope you don't see this as being evasive. I'm really trying to say that Baif is open to all these possibilities and is prepared to commit to the sort of the broad spectrum of seniors housing possibilities here. But it is also mindful of not wanting to commit to something that will then create other problems for delivering the Monchong home on the Treasure Hill lands as soon as possible. Everyone, Baif and Treasure Hill are both, or Baif fully supports Treasure Hill's initiative here to get Monchong built as soon as possible and to get Vogel Road built as soon as possible. So that's the driving principle here. And whatever makes the most sense in terms of additional seniors housing and additional complementary uses, such as a community wellness hub, which can have things like medical offices and other support services, paramedical services, potentially light commercial services that can support the seniors home. All of those things would certainly be something Baif is interested in building. So I hope that answers your question, and I'm prepared to elaborate further if you'd like.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the answer. Just want to be absolutely clear because we are actually on public record. Everything is videotaped. So I just want to confirm, I still have within a minute, I believe, that one is that the commitment I'm hearing.
Okay, Councillor Chen, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've got to clarify something for council. If you're going to continue to ask questions, we're going to have to waive our procedures. This is a special.
I'm not asking questions anymore. I'm just making a comment, reacting to
because it's special counsel. In a public hearing, we can do that, but once a motion has been introduced by council, members of the public are not permitted to participate in our dialogue. So we could waive that for the purpose of
That's
asking
my
more
order.
questions, but
Mr. Chair, I don't need to because I'm
Okay.
just trying to affirming what I'm
okay,
hearing. That's all.
okay, I'm
No
gonna
more
take
questions.
Councillor Munch's point of order, and then we'll return to you. Your clock is on pause, Councillor Chan.
Okay.
Councillor Munch, point of order.
It's exactly that. I think I'd like at this point, given what's happening there, because also, Ms. Pernica said she wants to speak and is there. I think we should move to waive our procedural bylaw at the special council meeting, so we allow a dialogue.
Okay,
that's already
is
started.
there a seconder to waive procedures to allow the public to participate in the special council meeting? Is there someone who's just going to second that, and we can, if council doesn't object, we can proceed. Oh, okay, Councillor Munch, there isn't a seconder, so we're gonna follow our procedures and cut off the public portion. And I needed to bring it up so members know that, if down the road, if we're in a special council meeting and members of the public want to speak and you're referring back, it's important that we follow our procedures. So Councillor Chan, you've got at least a minute.
Thank you.
left, I believe.
Okay,
You got
yes.
the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very quickly, I just want to confirm what I was hearing from the Baif representative. Baif is committed to the 1.2 hectare reserve for some kind of complementary use for seniors, whether it will be not in direct competition. I hear that term with Mark Shang. So I got it. But it's important for me to know that it's committed. That's important. It's not, meant to be. I don't want to use the term a bait for Baif. I don't think so, and I hear very clearly that's what they want to do. So that's helpful.
So you got to wrap up, Councillor Chan.
On that note, I am going to make my decision being again similar to the first time, very much influenced by what are the opportunities for senior complementary wellness hub. The only other comment I would make is I find it a little bit ironic, whereas we are talking about we designate employment lands, but the subject title is called employment or economic development opportunity. I found it's a bit ironic because we designate employment land for some other uses. But nonetheless, thank you for the time. Perhaps an opportunity for a second round. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Chan. And I want to thank all of council for reconvening here. Oh, the ward councillor is going to weigh in. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. As the ward councillor, I actually, over the past 48 hours, I gave lots of thought on this. But to be honest with you, even though this is located in Ward 3, I don't think it's a Ward 3 issue. I think it's a citywide issue. And I welcome and I really appreciate all the inputs from my colleagues before me. And also thank staff, because I have a conversation with staff and also with Baif yesterday. And this piece of land has a long history. It's way before me being a councillor. And we are so eager to develop this piece of land, to have that bridge built and to have Vogel Road complete. Staff already stated in their report memorandum the history of this, and I'm not going to repeat it. And funny enough, the Councillor Chan just mentioned, the topic of today's motion is ironic that, is employment land versus economic development. This is the way I see it. Today, we're not talking about protecting employment land. This is only my view. We are talking about actually economic development. The reason is, the day that the province granted Treasure Hill as MZO, once again, is my view, the Baif land is no longer an employment land. So it's kind of tough. We are talking about principle and reality. I actually gave lots of thought on this one, as much as I'm sure everybody, they would like to protect the employment land, but this is a very unique situation. And I think this is a very isolated, exceptional case that is in front of us. At first on Wednesday, I I don't have any certainty. I don't know what's going on, but by talking to Baif and talking to staff, I understand staff position is, well, things are out of our hands now. I understand that, truly respect that. But also in the memorandum, our staff said, if this MZO be successful, the applicant will still need to have subdivision and surfacing plans approved by the city and possibly further amendments to the zoning should discrepancy emerge from future detailed development plans, such as environmental limits. So we are still have some kind certain limits of control. So I remember on Wednesday, Regional Councillor Pirelli said, well, what are we talking about here is just the zoning. We still have a loss of control on what council vision on this piece of land. So while talking to Baif, I got, we have a very good conversation. I expressed to them my concern, and I welcome the idea of a wellness center. I agree with Councillor Chen. If we can get some commitment today that a wellness center will be there, it will be great. There will be some mixed use. My concern is, we need to do it comprehensively. Treasure Hill and Baif. And my vision now, I'd like to share with you that I want that to be a senior-friendly community. Hopefully, we need to be a sustainable community too, and I hope that there will be some plaza, some commercial. It has to be kind of self-sustained there. I don't want those people in the future go to Markham at the other side of 404 to shop. Okay, so I need some commercial, some jobs there too, and I verbally I got some commitment from
1 minute
from Baif. Thank you. So well, that's basically it. It's unfortunate, Treasury got an MZO. We didn't do it all together with Baif. That was then. This is now, and to me, what we have to do today is to make a responsible decision. Going forward. Let's face it, the reality is, I'll share with you, in Scarborough, Montchamp, the Scarborough Montchamp, what next to it? A bus depot. And they went to the City Hall, Toronto City Hall to protest. But still, there was a bus depot next to the Scarborough Montchamp. Do we want to see that in Richmond Hill? I don't. So without any, honestly, I don't think we have any choice. But I hope I can reason it out. Hopefully the public and my colleagues understand. And I agree. I hope that we get unanimous votes here today going forward. It's not about protecting employment land anymore. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Liu. Okay, very, very well said. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bus depot. York Region Transit owns land in Richmond Hill to service their transit vehicles on Orlando in our other business park, and they're surrounded by other business uses. So no, we have nothing against bus depots, but it's about compatible uses here. And I really want to congratulate council for showing the flexibility to adjust to market needs and trends. And we need to put a focus and an emphasis on providing senior housing. This is how it's done, by being flexible, by seizing onto opportunities, because that's what this council is going to do. And when it comes to economic development, we've got a strong approach out there, and there's no question we're going to be bringing jobs. The offices of the future are changing, but we've got. Last night we discussed that urban center that we're creating for an enormous amount of jobs. We're going to be a magnet for jobs here in Richmond Hill. And 30 years ago, when we envisioned corporate head offices along the 404, we've been a little bit obstinate to this point, and perhaps we have to recognize that that never came, never really came to be in the way that we envisioned it. But there's another such an important need for seniors housing that was met here, and by council being adapting, coming out on a Friday afternoon and taking a closer look and digging in on this one. I want to congratulate Councillor Munch as well for his well-researched and thought out motion, and to include a draft MZO is unbelievable. And I share the concerns that councillors have about the hammer of an MZO, and its tendency to take the public out of the process, because that there's nothing I would hate more than the public to not be included. But as was said, when site plans come forward, if there isn't a bridge included, it's not going to get my support, and if there isn't a seniors component, it's not going to get my support. And I'm sure all councils here today, we have an investor and stakeholder in Richmond Hill that's been involved for over 40 years in this city. And when they come to council and make a pledge, I take them at their word that's what they intend to do. But we still have the hammer to hold them to it when they get to the next stage of the approval process, and that's when we can welcome all the members of the public. So that MZO hammer is something to avoid. It's a last resort, but we've also got to recognize what got us here. The region approved 71 different employment conversions across the region, including a couple in Richmond Hill. All this is a matter of, you put the request forward to the region, and they approved a lot more conversions than they denied. It wasn't. It really wasn't a big deal. Had we got this request up to the region in time, the region would have made this change. No big deal. We'd be looking at site plans from coming forward from Monshong and whatever Baif's going to do here, and we wouldn't have to be asking the province to do this for us. It's not. It's not as much of an imposition in this case to ask the province to step in and do something that the region wasn't willing to do and that we're not able to do. So I thank council for supporting the motion on the floor. I don't know, I've got 1 minute left, but I don't need it. I'm done. I'm going to put the motion to a vote. Councilor Munch, you want to wrap up?
Call the vote. Call the vote.
Well, Councilor Munch has a 3-minute opportunity to wrap up. Did you got your request to speak signed? Please. And Councilor Liu, you want to speak as well on a second round? Okay, so go ahead, Councilor Munch. Second round.
So I want to.
And Councilor Silvitz, okay.
I want to thank Tina for speaking up. It's not often we get members of council. I don't know if she's joining us anymore. She had an appointment, I know. Anyway, I want to thank her. I also wanted to thank members of council, and specifically, I want to give a reach out to the Ward 3 Councillor Castro Liu for explaining, and the acting mayor for saying that we actually want senior care as our priority, and that this is one of the focused items for this block, both with Treasure Hill and with Baif. And both parties at Baif and Treasure Hill have made a commitment. And I think I've heard from other of my colleagues that we want to see that commitment come through from both parties and work collectively. So I think an MZO is not a negative. I see it as a positive where we can work collaboratively with others to help shared goals. I don't have an adversarial role to a provincial government. I hope they don't have an adversarial role to us. So I'm sad that some members of council did not want to see more public input, but I accept that will of council. But having said that, I think this is a great opportunity for us to provide a really great site, a senior-friendly site. I'm all in. So thank you. That's it.
Okay, Councillor Liu and then Councillor Silvitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Once again, I'll be very brief. I just wanted to add that the importance of completing Vogel Road. This is a very vital part of Hertford Business Park, and it's been 10 years overdue. We need that bridge. We need that bridge to link up. This is the artery of the business park. We need the north-south connection, and we need badly. We cannot wait 5 years, 10 years later to get that bridge built. So I think that that's another reason that I'm going to support this. And I'm just, okay, to wrap up, I think, I just want to let Treasure Hill and Baif know, even though I'm in support of this, but I will be keeping a close eyes. I'm going to assure the public and my colleagues that I'm going to keep a close eye on what they're going to do. They have better, fit the council's vision. We can build a wonderful, one-of-a-kind, senior-friendly community there. One more time, as I said at the council public meeting, I'm not too fond of high rises over there. But we'll see what we can do, and I can assure everybody I'm going to keep a close eye to make sure that our vision is going forward. Thank you.
Okay, we know you will, Councillor Liu. So Councillor Silovitz and then Councillor West wanted to speak. Councillor Silovitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to add that my negative vote here is in no way a negative vote against Mon Chong. It's no way a negative vote against senior housing, senior friendly built lands. And my negative vote here is a vote against the fundamental concept of an MZO. That's what it is. And I just wanted to put that on the public record. I fully understand the necessity of the completion of Vogel Road and a bridge, but I don't believe that an MZO in this particular location, as I did with the Treasure Hill location just to the north, would in any way make a difference as to whether or not a senior friendly neighborhood subdivision is planned here. I fully support Mon Chong. They're an incredible organization. And I just really felt the need to say that. My negative vote here is against the fundamental concept. Councillor Barros, do you have a problem there, flapping your arms? My negative vote is against the fundamental concept of an MZO and what it removes from public involvement and the municipality's involvement as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Silovitz. Okay, Councillor West and then Regional Councillor Perrelli.
Thank you. Just briefly, so this looks like this is going to pass, and that's fine. That's the will of council. I do appreciate Councillor Liu's comments, actually. If this is going to pass, I think the bridge is really something that we need to get, and we need to get it quickly. Like, not in 10 years from now, we need to get it quickly. I also think that if we're going to go to the, well, I don't agree with the employment land conversion, but if we're going to be doing that, we need to make sure that we're getting all the as much out of this as we possibly can. So I do agree that that if this ends up passing, there needs to be a commitment from the landowner, both Treasure Hill and Baif, actually, that the Mon Chong part of the facility will be built quickly, and that whatever happens on the Baif lands also happens quickly. Like, approving this and then sitting on it for another 15 years is not going to be helpful. So we need to get that done as quickly as possible. As I said earlier, I don't agree with this, but I mean, given the fact what I see is the likely outcome of this, we do need to make sure that we're, as a council, we're holding this to account. So that would be my comments. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you, Councillor West. Regional Councillor Perrelli, and then Councillor Barros.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad I waited to speak in the second round to hear further comments from my colleagues. I'm very pleased with what I'm hearing here today, Mr. Chairman, both from those in support of it and even those who don't want to support it. And what I'm saying here, Mr. Chairman, is this, that I can assure Councillor West that I have spoken both with Baif and Treasure Hill representatives. I had them both at a breakfast meeting yesterday with Councillor Barros. And I saw that they were on the same page. They both spoke of the things. It was a brief meeting, high level, but they both spoke of the things mentioned by Councillor Liu and Councillor West. The bridge, very important to them. Manchong, priority number one. Vogel Road, priority number one. In other words, they both recognize that working together, this is going to happen very, very quickly. And to the comment that Manchong should go first, all of this, all of the ancillary things have to happen at the same time. We have to get the road. We have to get money for the bridge. We have to, that's the way you get Manchong. Manchong is in the corner over there in the southeast corner where you got to get the road there. In order to get the road there, you need the money to build the road. In order to get the money to build the road, you got to build some housing to get some money and get the cash flow going, and so on and so forth. I understand Councillor Sullivan's concerns about the general principle of, you know, not liking an MZO. I agree. It does take away some of the public consultation. It does that, absolutely. But desperate times demand desperate measures. And one of the funny things that came to mind was this: as council is made up mostly of men, and the comment, you've heard it all before in jest, you know, men are too stubborn to ask for directions or ask for help. And that's there's a lot of truth to that, right? The MZO, I equated asking for help. We missed an opportunity to go through the municipal comprehensive review process. We missed the opportunity for that conversion. We don't want to wait 10 years. And we shouldn't be too proud to ask for help. And that's what I think an MZO is. It's, look, the circumstances are as they are. We asked the province for help during the pandemic. We asked the province for help in other things that we do. We asked the province for help to build the subway, et cetera, et cetera. This is just another, we need your help. And although we didn't involve the public in the traditional sense of involving the public and staff have commented. Staff know what's going on. Staff are going to get us to where we need to go. And they're going to protect our backs. They're going to have our backs. We're going to have Councillor Yu's back. And Councillor Yu is going to make sure that everybody stays in check. So all in all, this is a great day. But let's not pat ourselves on the back too quickly. We need to convince the minister to do this. So, you know, let's show some enthusiasm here when we vote, and let's tell them we need their help and we need them to do this. And at the end, I think we're all going to win in this. It's going to be a win for the city. It's going to be a win for this council. It's going to be a win for Baif, the residents, the seniors, Treasure Hill, and everybody involved. So again, I'll ask again. I'm not too humble to ask.
A minute.
I'm not too humble to ask. I would really like, under the circumstance, for a unanimous decision to get us the best shot we have at getting the minister to do this. Because remember what I said when we first started, this is about Manchong and the long-term care facility. And we need to do everything we can to ensure that it happens, and it happens quickly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barros.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to briefly say there are more reasons on the table for all of us to vote yes than there are reasons to vote no. If we were each to put a piece of paper down and start writing pros and cons, we would have more pros on why this should go forward. Now, at many times in life when we have decisions to make, we may not like the way we've got to get there. However, sometimes that rocky road is worth taking because the outcome, the scenery at the end is remarkable. I get it. Some of you don't like MZOs. In the current environment, this is the only way to get there. There is no paved road. It's only rocky. Now, if the Treasure Hill lands had been done differently, perhaps that argument would hold water. But under the circumstances, we are so far down this rocky road, we cannot put the vehicle in reverse and start backing up. We've just got to keep going forward to get there. So please, like Regional Local Councillor Pirelli said, let's all look at our sheet of paper with the pros and the cons and recognize that the pros for Richmond Hill, its residents, its future residents, its employees, its future employees, is what we're voting yes for. We're voting yes for that. How we get there, we can have our differences, but we're voting yes for getting there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Barros. I think that's the end of the list of councilors that wanted to speak.
Recorded vote, please.
Councilor Munch is requesting a recorded vote, and I just on that second round, just agree that there are so many reasons that we would step outside in this case of our normal planning practices and simply make this request of the province to go forward with something that I think would be beneficial for the community, and the fact that bridge gets built and the major artery is completed through our business park and opportunities for employment elsewhere, but the need that we have in Richmond Hill for seniors housing that's being expressed right across Richmond Hill. It's a citywide issue. And we don't have too many remaining opportunities, and I think this is a good use of a remaining parcel of land. So I'll just turn it over to the clerk then to call the vote. Recorded votes requested by Councillor Munch.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Acting Mayor. Voting on the motion of Councillor Munch, seconded by Regional Local Councillor Pirelli, to adopt the motion, the member's motion of Councillor Munch, excuse me, as well as to receive the correspondence, including the Treasure Hill correspondence that was circulated to members of council. Councillor Munch.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Barros.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor West.
No.
Thank you. Acting Mayor DePaula.
Yes.
Thank you. Region Local Councillor Pirelli.
Yes, please.
Thank you. Councillor Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Silovitz.
No.
Thank you. Councillor Liu.
Yes.
Thank you. And that motion does carry.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Okay, well, that concludes our scheduled business. Members of council, we do need a mover and a seconder for the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at this meeting. Regional Local Councillor Pirelli and seconded by Councillor Barros. All in favor? Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, that carries unanimously. Thanks very much. And anyone willing to move adjournment? Thank you, Councillor Chan, seconded by Councillor Silovitz. All in favor? Anyone opposed wants to say? Oh, you're against adjournment, Regional Councillor? Okay, well, it still carries 6-1. You have to go home. You can't stay here. Okay.